I'm Zen, I'm your host for today, and thank you so much for coming for our debut. If you're watching this right now, that means that you are equally passionate about film as I am, unless of course you are my parents. And guys, hi! If you do, please share, please like this film, please like this show, please share this show right now and let the people know that we are doing this right now, and I hope that you have a very good, indulgent experience. Today, we are going to talk, on our first episode, we are going to talk about distribution, cinema, and theater. As you know right now, theaters in Malaysia, we can't really go in them. It's very dry, like popcorn without caramel, right? So right now, a lot of people have a question on how do you watch films now? More specifically towards film students, that how on earth am I going to show my film to the people? So, as you're a little bit panicked right now. Right now, I'm going to introduce you four of our lovely, talented guests for today. First of all, we have Ms. Mary Liew. She is the film producer currently working at Foreground Pictures. We have Ms. Puiyee, who is the senior manager at Objectifs Centre for Photography and Films in Singapore. We have Mr. Hock right here, who is the head of content and currently working at Telekom Malaysia and Unifi TV. And lastly, we have Anwari Ashraf, who is currently the head of film development in Astro Shaw. Thank you all for coming for today. Now, before we begin, I understand that you as an audience may have some burning, sensational questions to these four of our guests tonight. So if you do, leave it in the comments. We will try our best to answer that at the end of the show. So don't stop flooding our comments here, right? Just keep the momentum going, all right? Now, let's start the show. So, as I have mentioned just now, the world is chaotic, on fire. We can't go out. The cinema is not opening. The film students are crying right now, right? So what the heck is going on, right? So basically, what I kind of want to ask is, because I understand that a lot of students are really, even including me, really wanted to put their film in cinemas, right? So maybe we can start with a more general question. What do you think about the cinema, and do you think that it's going to be sustainable even after the pandemic? And and also from film students' point of view, do you think that we should always target ourselves to put our films inside cinema? So maybe we can start with Anwari here, because he was the head of film development in Astro Shaw, which makes a lot of films, and all of a sudden they can't put it in cinema. So maybe I will ask a little bit from your thought here.
Yeah, thank you, Zen. It is a bit of a strange time. We had plans for 2020 itself. A couple of films that were actually in the backlog that had to be postponed in terms of its release. And these are like big films. And on the development side, we were actually developing something that was supposed to be a film. When we were suddenly, as a department, Astro Shaw development, we pivoted towards online premium series to go on Astro and then on Astro's OTT platforms. So yeah, it's very strange, especially being a team that has specialized in films. I've never done anything for TV throughout my career until the last year because of the pandemic. And it is both scary and at the same time, I find it quite interesting because if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have made Project Anchor SPM, for example. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. That's actually a really insightful, kind of detail right there. What about you, Mr. Ho? Maybe you can share a little bit of insight as well.
Yeah, sure. I've done TV. I was, I think, ex-Anwari's colleague at Astro. And I've done OTT. I launched a movie in Malaysia. And now I'm at the Unifi TV redoing the whole content strategy and revamping. So the thing is that there's two questions that you asked, actually, right? The first one is cinema still relevant? Absolutely, yes. Watching a film in the cinemas is absolutely different from watching from the small screen or the TV, right? The whole experience is different, right? And going to the cinema is an event itself. You don't go there just to watch a movie. It's an event. You go with your friends, and then it's an outing. So I think cinema is definitely here to stay, right? But whether it's so big or so small, I'm not sure. But absolutely, cinema is definitely going to be here, right? And you will see that OTT players are starting to acquire cinemas, right? And the second question is like, the pandemic situation, do you need to release your films on in the cinemas? You know, releasing a movie on cinema, right, is absolutely a different beast by itself. It's not so easy to release a movie in the cinema. Step one is you need to convince the cinema to give you a slot first. You get that first, right? Secondly, you know how much they spend to promote the cinema, the film on the cinemas. And thirdly, right, getting things like DCP and stuff like that, right, it's going to cost a lot, right? So the whole economics of it is not something that everybody will want to do, right? It would be better off to release a movie in a OTT platform, for instance, right? On Astro first, for instance, right? Like movie is going to have one film, Mencari Rahmat, right? It's going to be released 31st August, right? So I think with these online platforms, it's a good opportunity for students to feature their film. Even on Astro, Astro supports students a lot, right? So there are many ways to do it, not just to go to the cinemas to have your films shown, right?
Right. Very interesting on like the economic like point of view of it. Puiyee, how about you? Like, what do you think of it? Because I understand that in Singapore, I think in Singapore they like the cinemas are open, right, compared to like in Malaysia.
Yes. Hi everyone. Thanks for having me. Yes. So the cinemas are open in Singapore. So right now, I mean, there's still certain like restrictions, social distancing, in place. But also, I think more cinemas are slowly only admitting people who are fully vaccinated. So it's opening, but I think based on my understanding, it's not like how it used to be in terms of the box office takings pre-pandemic. I think not just in Singapore, I'm pretty sure everywhere around the world, like cinemas, but box office sales are all affected. So I think I agree with Hock Doong also. I think cinema is still relevant. I think because also it's films and actually what you see, even whether you go to the theaters or you watch shows on Netflix or whatnot. It's a reflection of our like life, society, culture, and why people go to watch films, TVs, and all is to be it to escape from something, or you want to like immerse yourself in another world. So I think this it won't go away, but how it will shape shift in the future. I think this is something that we are all also still figuring out. And I also like to so share a bit for I'm always asked like from young filmmakers, where can people watch their films. And starting out making short films, I usually encourage them to send it to also film festivals, even though right now during the pandemic a lot of festivals are also kind of trying to present the films the best that they could, like going on a hybrid version and all. But I think I think that is also like a first step to send your films to film festivals. And if it's selected, people not just like the programmers, but other filmmakers from around the world, they get to know who you are as a filmmaker. And then from there, as your career, your journey as a filmmaker, it can kind of like slowly go on as one continue making films.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. Okay. Thank you. Now, same question goes to you, Mary. Because again, you're from like a producer's point of view, right? Do you share like the same sentiment, or do you what do you think about it?
Definitely, I do share the same sentiment with Mr. Ho and also Puiyee, because right now at this current landscape, right, we always have to adapt to the like certain changes, and cinema is definitely here to stay, because we need cinema, we need like an expression of outlet, we need to express creativity, and it might not be like one outlet is just cinema. There's also definitely OTT platforms, even on YouTube, like, for example, and you can like create like these conversations within communities, like for example, you can start really small and start doing short films with your peers. And yeah.
All right, thank you so much, Mary. Now for this next section, I kind of wanted to like understand from the platforms that you guys were like representing from all of you. So I kind of wanted to ask from the first question, maybe I'll ask Mr. Anwari first, that because we understand that you're working under Astro Shaw, right? And it's always kind of like this myth on like, oh, how does distribution, acquisition, this kind of stuff works? So maybe, maybe go through as like the head of like film development, like what do you like usually do? Like how do you acquire films? Do you distribute films? Like how does it work? And maybe you can also discuss a little bit about how do we get to put your films in like our films into Astro Show, and what makes in your opinion, what makes like a film go, okay, I want this film into my platform or something like that. So maybe you can discuss a little bit about it.
Right. Okay. Okay. For starters, I think with Astro Shaw, because I know Media Prima and RTM, they have a specific calendar date when it comes to, okay, this is when everyone comes and pitch, right? But with Astro Shaw specifically, we practice an open door pitching policy. In that situation, it means that anyone, literally anyone, you don't have to have connections. Anyone can send in a proposal. Because we went through this phase where we were actually receiving cold scripts, but then in terms of managing the process of reviewing it, it was quite impossible. So as long as we do have this, you just contact the right person and we will give you a template of sorts when it comes to what is expected from Astro Shaw in your pitch, right? And we have a template for that. And when it comes to now that we are dabbling, not only in films, we are dabbling also in premium series and all that. When it comes to the criteria of what gets through, it's always different for different platforms. If it's planning to go, if it's something that is supposed to be out on the cinemas, we have different criteria. If it's something that you're proposing to be a premium series, for example, the criteria will also be different. In which, when it comes to cinema release, clearly Astro is a business, and we are looking for titles that could help push our agendas as Astro Shaw. Because Astro Shaw, we believe in making baby steps towards that progress in terms of educating the audience in film appreciation, but at the same time, could reap the most benefits lah. That's the cold hard truth to it. But when it comes to premium series, this is where I think it's really interesting, especially for young and new filmmakers. We are definitely a lot more interested in looking at things that can still resonate with the captured audience, the captured Astro audience, but at the same time are trying to push boundaries. So it's not, if you think of it as a spectrum, this is an art film, and this is a really commercial film. We're trying to find somewhere in between. And the goal is always to push it closer to an art film, where appreciation towards the arts where the idea is that you educate the audience and let them be more exposed to what cinema or series can be, as opposed to jumping towards that ultimate form and just confuse them.
So basically, it's like for film students, be art, but not too art, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I understand that sounds like it sounds counterintuitive, but personally, I do feel that the audience is a big part of the market. Like, what am I talking about? The audience is the market, right? The audience is the market, and therefore, I do feel that we have that responsibility of talking in their language, but at the same time, not totally abandoning our own agendas when it comes to making them see and listen to what we are trying to say. And the steps towards that is baby steps.
Interesting. Now that now that I see Astro is trying to go into like a certain way, right? So, Mr. Hock, I have the same question to you. Usually, what is the the process of doing distribution and acquisition? And again, same question goes from Anwari. What do you usually, when you see film, what do you see that makes you go, okay, I want this film into the platform?
Well, in Unifi TV, I think it's a platform, right? Unifi is a broadband service, and Unifi TV is a platform to feature content through these services, right? So I think for as a platform, in terms of supporting students, right, I'm sure because MMU is part of Telekom, I think, right? So yeah, we have a belt for short films that features short films from MMU. I'm sure you know about it. So that's important. But in terms of acquisition and distribution, is a bit different if you go into different segments. For instance, right, let's say by the time I was working in movie, right? So what we do is that, movie is more of a festival and a kind of a platform. But in Malaysia, we have a very strong focus on local Malay film, right? So what we really are looking for is something along the line of local films with local stories that is well done, as in like, the story well told, right? The problem with some students is that they want to do art film for art's sake. So they do funny things, funny edits, it's like, wow, very artistic, which is totally not the right way, right? So they put importance on techniques instead of storytelling, instead of a story, right? So it's really, I see a lot of books from students or young filmmakers. Where they do that, they do it just because they want to do it, because it's cool. So this one thing we will definitely filter out, because you're supposed to tell a good story. You're not supposed to showcase your techniques, right? So there's the thing like I see a lot of Wong Kar-wai wannabes. Absolutely, everybody must be Wong Kar-wai, right? So that's that. And also the other part is that when you really want to go a bit commercial, right? Like in Astro, we release some movies and we do stuff, right? Last time during my time is that like what Anwari said, is the balance between the audience. You need to know your audience, who you are, selling to, and also to balance that you don't do really slapstick thing that undermine the trade. You know what I mean? Yeah, you want to have a lot of, you want the audience to come. Therefore, you think, and then you think, oh, audience love horror films. Therefore, I make horror films. Then you'd make a stupid horror film that is a disaster, right? So as a filmmaker, you need to have some integrity in your work, right? You just don't do it because you think it sells, right? You need to have some integrity. I think it's really important. And if you pitch a story or a film to professionals, right, they can immediately see, whether you're genuine or not, and whether that's a product or a film or a filmmaker that we would want to support. That's really important. The authenticity of it is really, really crucial.
So the authenticity of storytelling instead of just more on technicality. Yeah. All right.
So the two spectrum that Anwari said, right? The art spectrum, right? Those guys are wannabes, right? So they want to just showcase that technique and Wong Kar-wai and Chai Ming Liang stuff, right? Or maybe some laugh just do like 6-hour stuff, black and white. And the other end is this commercial stuff, right? Do stupid movies just they think it's going to work for the mass market, right? So just to be careful of this, just what I'm trying to say.
Can I add to what Ho just said? I think I agree 100%, Ho, and it's about, I think it's at the core of it is actually respecting your audience, right? Because what that means is not, because it's easy for me to say respect your audience, right? And then it's easy to interpret that one way or the other. Respecting the audience could mean, okay, then I give them the purest art form. Right, for example. But unfortunately, it's not the case with Malaysia when it comes to film appreciation. So our audience is at that, if it's a bell curve, right, it's somewhere, the majority is not towards the art, towards the artistically inclined. The majority is, people who are quite interested to see some difference, but not too different. And it's important for us to talk in their language. And what I mean by that is that, okay, for example, because when you don't talk to someone in their language, right, you are actually kind of insulting them. When you make a film that is too on this side of the spectrum, for example, a really dumb slapstick movie, right, for example, you're insulting them. But if you're making if you're trying to talk to them through to a film that, they don't understand, and you're standing from this high horse, you're still insulting them. So to me, not insulting my audience is very important.
I kind of want to, like, from that perspective, I kind of want to ask Mary a little bit, because, do you also have to struggle with the idea of, let's say, art house and commercial, and then you have to find a certain balance of it?
Yeah, actually, like for Foreground Pictures, right, we always constantly juggle between, do we want to tell stories like the festival way or like the commercial way? And it's very hard to, like, because intentionally always want to tell stories from our backyard, our own Malaysian homegrown stories and stuff. And we definitely also want to help out the community. So it's definitely like a very strange balance where, okay, we cannot be too much wannabes, but we also want them to watch our films and know that we have a voice to tell. I think it all boils down to also like what do you really want the audience to know, and also like what voice that you want to say, or like what you really want to like put out there to the world. Yeah.
So every filmmaker always has this like thought of, oh, I don't want to go to art house, but I don't want to go to commercial, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Now I kind of want to jump to Puiyee a little bit, because again, we're like all of us are Malaysian, but you're kind of like on the other country on the spectrum, and also your platform is also a little bit different, right? Because you are working under Objective. So maybe you can talk a little bit about the Objective platform, and kind of what's the difference between, let's say, Astro and like big commercial companies like Astro, and then Objective, and how do we as film students put our films into your platform?
Yeah, so Objectives, I think just to share a bit about Objectives for those who are not familiar, we are independent, non-profit art space. We focus on photography and film-related programs. So a lot of the programs that we do, we're not as large scale. I don't think we have the budgets of like Astro, or so a lot of things. For certain programs, we either sometimes have to apply for grants, or how we actually also earn revenue. We run photography and film workshops. We also do a lot of corporate projects. For example, we work together with government agencies to help them organize like short film festivals and all. But I think I also want to share a bit, like way back before like YouTube burst into this, became like YouTube Vimeo became like the de facto platform for people to watch like films, content or whatnot. We actually used to have a short film distribution arm, and that's we actually distribute short films. So I think in the good old days, we used to sell short films to broadcasters in Europe and on airlines, and they actually paid very good money. So that was our way of also kind of to share Southeast Asian short films to different platforms around the world, and to promote Southeast Asian short films in that way. But we don't have that distribution arm anymore, because of also like how things, the way viewers watch films is changing. So we don't do that anymore, and also because it was getting harder and harder to get people to pay for it. But we recently started an Objectives Film Library. It's meant to be an educational resource that is dedicated to Southeast Asian short films. So how we envision it is to also kind of like this is something that we started last year. So for us, it's very important to educate people, or like just to introduce them about Southeast Asian short films. So in the plans that we have, we are actually also working on like an educational resource of short films. We are going to have writings on it, and we intend to actually share it with universities around the world to just get them to have these Southeast Asian short films when they teach lessons, because we feel that it's actually very important to actually know and understand about films from your own region. Because I'm not sure how is it like in Malaysia, but in Singapore, a number of the film schools, like the films that they use to teach in lessons, a lot of them are still are very like Western European, American. I mean, I think of course you need to know the classics, but even if they introduce Asian films, it's always like the masters and all. But when it comes to Southeast Asian, I think that is very lacking. So that is something that we hope to also introduce in schools, because we feel that education is very important. And one program that we do at Objectives, so we have this program called the Traveling Short Film Project, where we actually bring Singapore short films to schools, to like secondary schools, high schools. So this is something that we care about a lot. So because for us, it's like, if you want people to know about what Singapore film is, or what are the films out there that are telling your own stories, I think we feel that the best way is actually to introduce them to students, when they are still young, and they have no idea what Singapore film is, or even what Southeast Asian film is. So this is something that we are actively doing to just, educate and introduce Southeast Asian and Singapore short films.
Right. I would imagine if, let's say, that a company would come in and then show us like Malaysian short films, right? I wonder how would the crowd would be like. It would be a really interesting crowd. I would think so, yeah. Well, so that's very interesting because that's a library, right? I kind of want to jump the question back to Mary a little bit again because you're a producer, right? So do you have to always think about, even before, let's say, pre-production, do you always have to think about what kind of distribution do you want to go already, or you only decided after you come up with the film? Like, for instance, right, like I don't know, like, because you just made, I think, Monsoon 2021, right? And that one was like directly on YouTube for like 2 days, right? So maybe you can talk us a little bit about like the decision making when it comes to like distribution a little bit from the producer perspective.
Yeah, so Monsoon 21 was like mainly purely out of like frustration of like trying to be creative in this pandemic. So it's like we were like, just take our chances and like, take our friends and camera, and then we just go out and shoot. So definitely like the pre-production process and also like to find out where to distribute, it goes hand in hand. So we found out like the best way for us to like get more audiences, everyone was like stuck at home, and to just put it out there on YouTube for the time being. And also like there's definitely some short films that we do plan to send to film festivals. So it's like you definitely see what your end game is, and also you have to know where your audience is and how do you want to like interact with them, because definitely you still want to have an audience. That's why you make films. So yeah, definitely they go hand in hand, and you see how it goes. Sometimes we also play by ear. Like, let's say we find out that during the process of like doing this film, we find out, okay, maybe it doesn't suit to go on YouTube, so we'll just keep it, and then we'll submit to film festivals. Maybe like reach out to different people and see what their opinions of it, and like we try to structure them and then resend them to like film festivals first, and then only we decide like to go on the online platforms. So yeah, it depends on what content that you want to say. And when you're doing it during the pre-production, it definitely, you have to think about what's your end game like.
So you always think about like what's the ultimate plan for you to like show your film, right?
Yeah.
But it's interesting you talk about film festival, because I understand that Puiyee also kind of like curates and do programs on film festivals, right? And just now kind of Hock kind of talks about maybe don't aim too much on, let's say, on cinema first, but rather start on like film festivals and such, right? So my question to you is, because I understand that some students, right, they kind of like a little bit like scared of like going to film festivals and like, oh, really, like, sure. So maybe would you like give advice to, let's say, some students who wanted to do that, but at the same time they're not sure whether or not they should do it or
not? But I think there's actually a lot of film festivals around. So I think like what Mary has shared, I think it also really depends. I know of some filmmakers who like when they're making their own films and all, some of them strategically plan to I just want to share it on like YouTube or Vimeo and just let as many people watch as possible. And for some, they, because depending on the kind of stories that you tell, and also, by the way, I totally agree with everyone that it's very important to just tell a story in your own sincere way. Don't make it for film festivals, because programmers, they can tell, they watch like hundreds and thousands of films. So yeah, just tell a story that that really resonates with you. So anyway, yeah, I think there's actually with film festivals, there's actually really nothing daunting. I don't think there's anything that should stop filmmakers from trying and sending. But I think very importantly, you need to do your research. So for example, I think know what your film is about. So let's say, for example, if your film is like drama, fiction, family story, and if you're gonna send it to like a festival like Oberhausen, who focuses more on non-linear experimental works, then chances of your film getting selected at that festival is probably not very high. So I think very important, do a research and what kind of festivals are out there, where is the best fit for your film, because also, you know, if you anyhow send your films to film festivals, like sometimes you might also be wasting money because there's a submission fees involved. But then also, you know, you're kind of like not really like planning a strategic route. And I also like to advise filmmakers also, you know, when planning the budget for your film, even before, you know, like I know like usually everyone like put aside money for like production, post-production or whatever, but I also like to encourage you should actually also put small amount of your budget for film festivals, because, you know, a lot of the prestigious film festivals, they all charge a submission fee, and of course everyone wants their film, you know, to be shown in the best festivals, and also, you know, set aside some money for that as you know, when you're planning the budget for a film. But yeah, I think, you know, it's really not a scary thing. And also yes, very important, like read the terms and conditions of different festivals. You know, different festivals, they require different premiere status. Some require like world premiere, international, Asia premiere. So if your film has already been screened once before, you can't send to a festival that requires a world premiere.
So really delve into what kind of film that you have and versus like what kind of film festival that you wanted to join. That's basically it. All right, thank you so much. I want to jump my next question to Anwari here, because I understand that just now that you said, right, you not only produce and distribute film, but you also write and direct films, right? So I kind of very like curious a little bit, like, does there any like, say, like the communication between, let's say, the distribution part and the writing, directing, production part, like, is there any other, like, is there any argument or any like communication, like, you know, issues that you have to deal with, that kind of thing? And maybe later Mary can add in a little bit, yeah, because I understand that she also like writes and directs.
Well, yeah, definitely, because again, I work for a conglomerate, right? And at the same time, I'm also trying to you know, I have certain ideas of how I see the works that I'm about to produce, and we fight a lot about casting. I'm gonna be honest. You know, questions like, okay, I want this guy. Hey, tapi Instagram dia sikit though. You know, it's definitely something that we face. So I think I've been doing that for quite some time now. You know, just fighting with the distribution people when it comes to casting. But my advice is just pick your battles, lah, because it's going to be a long-term, especially in my case, right? It's clearly a long-term relationship, and so I pick my battles. There are certain, when it comes to casting, there are certain people that I'm really headstrong about, and there are certain characters. Although, in the best case scenario, I would want a different person, but yeah, I give in lah. So that's kind of the sacrifice that you have to do when you work in the. That's kind of the sacrifice that you have to make to get a monthly stable salary.
Mary, do you have any, like, do you have to face anything similar during like producing?
Definitely, like there's a lot of caps to put in. Like, okay, you have to think about the distribution side, you have to think about the director side, because you know, filmmaking is always a roller coaster ride. It has up and down. It's like, especially now that it's like very slow, but you know, when you try to like make films, you always have to make the decision which is like the best for the film itself. Like you have to respect like sometimes the director's decision or like everyone's decision, and then at the end of the day, you still want to see like, okay, we want to make this film. So yeah, that's how we like kind of differentiate, like, okay, is this the better route for us to go forward, or okay, should we just like keep this off and move on from it?
Yeah, so do it for the film lah.
Yeah, do it for the film.
All right. I think I'm gonna have like the same question to Mr. Ho here, because again, I think you are more focused on like distribution side, right? So again, like, do you have any like obstacles when you have to, you know, face, you know, challenges, and like what challenges that you kind of face during as the head of content? And also like, because again, I don't really like during film school, right? I don't really hear people say, oh, I want to become like the head of content for like a company or something like that. So like, would you like recommend your film students to join like the job that you are having?
No. Actually, it's a journey for me, because I've been doing content since a long time. So I think the thing about doing content as a career is that the first thing you need to love content. If you do not love content, that's it. You're just doing it, for what, right? So I love films. I love movies, right? That's my base, right? So from there, I venture into many other things, OTT, TV, and now Unifi TV, right? So I think if you love content, whatever form of content, right, you will love this job, lah. So but the thing is that content. There's so many different things. You got directors. If you want to be director, then cannot, lah. If you want to be a producer, yeah, maybe, yeah. But the thing is that you need to know what you really want to be. Like what Mary said just now, right? There's so many caps to wear. So the thing is, if you want to be, if you're a student, and you want to do a project, right? One of the big problem is that you want to be the director, you want to be the producer, you also want to be the writer, you also want to be everybody, right? It's a disaster, right? So you need to choose what you want to specialize in. That's really important in your mind. You cannot be everything. Yeah. So yeah, if you want to be a head of content or that, right? The first thing is you need to love content, and you need to know the business of content. Because if you don't know the business of content, you you lose money, and you won't be head of content for very long.
Yeah, so just like every other job in the film industry, you want to join the job, you have to love it.
Yeah. But I want to comment a bit on what Puiyee said just now about film festivals, right? Because I was involved in a lot of film festivals, in script committees and stuff like that, right? So if you want to, in Malaysia itself, there are a lot of short film festivals, right? Short film is almost like a practice for film students, right? Or for aspiring filmmakers. It's almost like a practice. For instance, you want to go and pitch for a long form feature without any short films to back up, right? Basically, it's no lah, right? Because you haven't nothing to as a reference. So short film is more like a practice session for the filmmakers, and it's also where you find a voice, right? If you want to make a formula film, right, the all the formula film, right, and you think you're going to make it, you won't, right? You need to find your own voice. Like one filmmaker from Vietnam called Liew, right? He has a very strong voice. Yeah, so you need to find your voice, and doing short film is for you to practice and do that. And you don't want to jump into a long form, because if your first film is a long form, you don't have many chances, because a lot of film festivals, right, is for first time director or second time director. If you miss that first and second director, you do crap, right, then you're lost. So use the short films as a practice and to find your voice. And then, try to go to a film festival. You don't have to go to the European Film Festival, not even Busan or something like that, right? In Malaysia, we have the short film festival by Puiyee, and Jackie, the team, right? And then you got the Unimas, they do all this stuff, right? So yeah, use this as practice, because you won't be judged by how many short films you make. But if you go into long form, right, and you're really serious into the festival, right, you mess up your first and second feature, you are pretty much gone, no? Yeah.
So basically, like use films as short film as a practice, lah. Yeah, because again, I think during this whole pandemic thing, I do see a lot of my friends in MMU at least, lah. They started to be, I think they're more out, and then they tried to put more short films into film festivals. So yeah, I will also applaud to them, lah, and use this as a practice now, lah. So all right, now we are going to now it's about like 9:40. So now we're gonna go to a little bit on our Q&A session, because man, there's a lot of questions. So one of the highlights, I think I saw a pattern in which some of the questions are a little bit political. Like there are mentions about censorship board and FINA. So maybe we can ask a little bit. So the first question is from Hanan. So my question to all the panels: what's your opinion on FINAs? Are they doing a good job on helping the industry to cope up with the pandemic? Specifically, finding an alternative voice for the cinema. Okay, so let me change the question a little bit, because I'm scared that FINAs will kill us or something like that. So maybe just talk about the film industry in Malaysia in general. Like, what do you think of it? And do you think that even during hard times like this, right, you feel like, oh, there's still for me to express all this by using film? Maybe we can start with Anwari.
I would just put it under an umbrella term that there definitely are a lot of limitations when it comes to trying to make a film in Malaysia, definitely. However, I have found the fight, the direct fight for reform to be quite an effort in futility. So what I've been doing instead is I have been playing with the lines. If you put me under this box, so I'm going to be threading the line. I'm just going to push the line wider. Again, baby step. That's kind of my approach when it comes to Malaysian limitations when it comes to making films. For example, we play with technicality because we're quite literate when it comes to the guidebook from Finas, for example. We know exactly what you can, in terms of how they word it, and we play along with that. Yeah. I hope not too many Finas people see this.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, we've gotten away quite a few times, and then to my surprise, actually, because I feel that by doing that also, you just tiptoeing along the line, not even really talking about the stuff that can be deemed controversial. At first, I thought it would be met with backlash. Why are you half-assing this point, right? But actually, no. From my experience, the little that you say actually resonates quite a bit, as opposed to trying to really just go against the guidelines 100% blatantly, and it's not shown in Malaysia. So yeah, I would continue doing this instead of trying to fight it directly.
So just do it more and more and see
Yeah.
how far we can go. Yeah. What about Hock? Do you have what do you think about this?
Well, I think, if you want to live in a country, you should play by laws no matter what to do, right? You got to do that. You got to be a law-abiding citizen, right? So I think we play within whatever that is within the legal framework, but you can be smart and clever, right? So you can say things in a different way, maybe, that is not a direct clash. Because the audience are not stupid. I tell you, the audience, they are really smart. So that's one thing that you can really go about it. The second thing is there are some people that want to challenge the law because they want to challenge the law. So what's the point, right? You're just trying to challenge the law because you want to challenge the law. So you're not trying to tell a good story, right? You're not trying to find your voice to tell the story. You just want to be, challenge the law so that you're popular on the newspaper. So don't do that kind of things, right? So it goes back to authenticity. Why do you want to be a filmmaker? Because you want to tell an authentic story with your own in your own way. You're not there to be famous because you go to a newspaper because you are caught because doing this thing, right? So that's really important. And the third thing is, I think in this framework where there's a lot of OTT players now, right? There's no parity. Things they can show on OTT you cannot show on TV. It's like, we need to do something about it, right? Why is there like a double standard kind of thing? So I think the core thing is that you cannot assume that the population or the audience are stupid. They are not. So if you start from this basis, right, then you will see you know how to navigate around it.
All right, Mary, what about you? Do you as a producer, do you have to face like government laws, and then like do you have moments like I can do that but I can't because the framework that it was built?
Yeah, definitely. But as a filmmaker or like as a creative, you have to be creative, like pushing around the boundaries and like tread along the lines. As I do agree with what Anwari said. Like we have to to be together and then like raise up the conversations that we have to do, and also like keep on pushing, like make it like so everyone can be involved in like the filmmaking industry. But at the same time, there's also a lot of opportunities out there, not only in Malaysia, but it's also like our neighboring countries like Singapore, Indonesia, Philippines, and Thailand. Like all of us, like we can come together and like the fight is not alone. And at the same time, like if you want to see it in Malaysia context, actually Finas is also trying in a way to also help out our filmmakers. Like they are having a lot of these grants. They're raising the conversation about how to go about the film festival with webinars and all. So it's like very helpful to help us navigate along. And yeah, it goes hand in hand. Like, okay, you have a story to tell, but at the same time, you want to raise a question. How much are we able to tell, right? So it's like, you have to be very creative about it.
And lastly, to Puiyee, I don't know if it's like the same question because again, because you're Singaporean, but maybe on Singaporean context, is it like the same when it comes to, let's say, the framework of like filmmaking, and like how much can we push, and like is it the same as in Malaysia when compared to Singapore?
Zen, sorry, can I just interrupt? Sorry, just interrupt you.
Sure.
Because it's very important for me to say this, right?
Okay, go.
You must not confuse FINAS with censorship. There's two different things. LPF.
Yeah.
Right.
Definitely. Thank you. Yeah.
Well, there is like a kind of like a film classification board in Singapore, but I think that they're all under this IMDA, and then we have a Singapore Film Commission. I think the Film Commission, they do give out quite like a number of grants to filmmakers. So like short film grants, like first feature grants, and various other grants. But I think it's kind of like known for filmmakers. There are certain gray areas in films that that filmmakers usually you either have to be smart about it if you want to put it in a story. So topics like homosexuality, politics, and religion, these are really sensitive topics. So I think it's kind of like known. So sometimes I think that the bad thing is like, I think unfortunately some filmmakers, they tend to self-censor when they want to tell certain stories, or they just won't touch any of these areas. But then again, also it's also if you want to include these elements in your films, like why, right? But I would say if your film has any one of these three topics, and if it's depending on how serious or how you weave the topic in, it's very likely that your film won't be able to be screened in Singapore. I think there was one example like To Singapore with Love by Tan Pin Pin, because it's a documentary on a group of people who they don't live in Singapore anymore. They were sorry, I can't remember the word to use to describe, but basically they're Singaporeans, but they can't step in Singapore. So she did a documentary on this subject. It was banned in Singapore, but it could travel to other film festivals. I think it was actually screened at Freedom Film Festival in Malaysia.
Okay, thank you so much. That was very, very insightful. Let me look at the next question. Let me see. Okay, so there's a question from Jackie, right, which talks about the evolution of social media, and does it impact cinema in a good or bad way? Because again, times are changing, and a lot of people like consume social media. The way that people consume social media is very different, and that from based on my understanding as a film student, like we feel like the audience like taste is kind of changed again, because like within like there's a possibility that social media is kind of changing. So maybe we can like get a little opinion about it. Like do you think that social media, because of social media, like the impact of cinema is like changed, either good or bad lah? Maybe we can start with Mary, because again, like she posted, she released her film in social media too. So
yeah, definitely, like for having a wider exposure in social media, is like it really helps in building like your confidence within the audience. It also raises a lot of awareness about what film education we want to do, and at the same time it also the interaction between social media and like the filmmaker itself is very precious, because that's how if your film is like they like it, or if they don't like it, okay, then you can improve on your next film. And I believe like with social media right now, right, the possibilities are always endless. Like you can do anything, and film travels by word of mouth. Like let's say there's a good film out there, you just tell like with one tweet and it can go viral, and it would change the whole ball game of a film. Yeah, so definitely like for social media, it goes hand in hand on how you want your audience to receive it, but at the same time, you can choose to use it to your own advantage.
Mr. Hock, what do you think about this? Do you think do you share the same sentiment?
I think social media, there's two main influence. The first thing is on the marketing angle, right? Where you can have a direct channel directly to the audiences, right? It's a direct channel, direct feedback to that. So you get a feedback loop, right? So that's really important, that you can do all your marketing things, and tell them what is happening, and then can tell you your film sucks, things like that. So it's a direct communication. But the second thing about social media is like like TikTok, this kind of things, right? They start to have people start to appreciate very spontaneous kind of thing, right? You know, last time, golden time Hollywood, right? Everything is beautiful, everything is sculpted in the way, and then, you know, the French New Wave, and then things are a bit more, you know, on the street and more like, you know, real cinema, right? So you're seeing like currently on YouTube or TikTok, right? You see a lot of people appreciating that instantaneous authenticity kind of thing instead of like all wrapped into a nice bubble, right? So I think that is going to have a big impact on filmmaking as well. So if people see the kind of directness in the movies, right, then they will feel that, wow, this is something that they can relate to. So in this manner, so yeah, the marketing side, but also in how people perceive visual storytelling as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like from my perspective, right, because of social media, I did get to know a lot more people who likes films, and like the choice of films are, oh, like there's like a specific choice of film, right? So, Puiyee, do you have, well, what do you think about this? Do you share the same sentiment, or do you have a different opinion about it?
I think I more or less agree with Mary and Hock. I think how like people are consuming films now is, you know, like a lot of it also through social media, and you know, looking at like Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. You know, that's their like platform to consume films. But I feel that I feel like it will go hand in hand. I think social media is also just like another platform on how you can access different types of stories, different types of like content that is out there. Whereas like, you know, you go to on a platform like for example like Astro Unifi TV, right? And or like Netflix, or even you go to cinemas. There are also like, you know, different type of stories and kind of like different types of content that you can watch. And I mean, of course, if you go to cinema or film festivals, I think it's very clear, you know, what kind of like films you'll be exposed to, the kind of stories that you will be experiencing when you go to different avenues. So I think, yeah, in time to come, probably there might be some sort of like all this will be mixed together and all. But yeah, I think that it's here to stay, and it won't go away.
And lastly, Anwari, do you have any opinion about it?
I need to unmute first, apparently.
Okay, yes.
Yeah. Well, I think social media, as with in relation to anything, not just filmmaking, has its pros and its cons now. The pros definitely I see is being able to find, especially if you're someone who is quite cinema literate, right? Back in the day, especially back in let's say 2005, right? I always felt a bit of an outcast. You know why? It seems like I'm the only one who is into this kind of stuff. But with the invention of social media, there's groups, you know. On Twitter, it's not hard for the algorithms to help you find these people. But at the same time, also, when it comes to social media, the cons could be ease of, you know, even more convenience for pirates to operate. Because we know about the Telegram groups and it's very hard to regulate them. So that's the downside lah. But other than the piracy side, I think most of what social media has done to the appreciation of film is mostly positive.
Yeah, I also kind of like feel the same way. Okay, now we're going to the last question. Now this is just now I'm checking like the questions that the audience sent, and there are one or two questions regarding that I haven't mentioned. Is about streaming sites, right? Places like Netflix, Movie, you know. So a lot of people have been curious about this, right? Because, you know, without cinema, a lot of people jumps to streaming site, right? So maybe I will start with Mr. Anwari, because just now you also mentioned a little bit about, like you're looking at the cinema, we had a different rules, and then if you look at OTT, it's like another different rule. Maybe you can delve into it, like, you know, for film students, right? Usually, how do we pitch OTT films or OTT series, like compared to like just pitch like a normal like film for like cinema and such?
I think, okay, so OTT, and I will talk in the sense of Astro Shaw and what we do, yeah, because I'm not quite familiar with the other platforms. So with Astro, and when it comes to OTT, we're talking about premium series lah. And when it comes to premium series, it's it's always about finding these people who are, as I mentioned earlier, who are quite in line with what we are trying to do, where we are trying to push some boundaries, but at the same time not alienate our core audience. And if we get the indication that the concept is doing exactly that, that the filmmakers behind it has the same aspiration with us, then that's definitely something that we are very interested in. So that's when it comes to streaming. When it comes to cinema right now, unfortunately, we are still open for cinema pictures, but at the same time, we ourselves have no idea when it will commence when it comes to pre-production.
Okay, maybe I'll go the next question to Puiyee. So what do you like your thoughts on like streaming service? Is it helping the film industry, or is it doing something else in your opinion?
Well, it's here to stay.
Yeah.
I don't think it will go out. Whether it's helping or not. Well, I think because because of COVID, I think a lot of production companies, I think not just, don't even talk about the independent ones, obviously like we are badly hit, but even if you talk about like the big boys like Warner or like Sony and everything in they're all like badly hit. And I think at least for now, based on my understanding, like Netflix is the only one with the budgets, like and they are still able to like pour in like millions, be it into films or into series. So well, I guess like if you are a filmmaker and if you're approached by Netflix and they can give you like a lump sum of money where you can really do what you want, then hey, I of course like it's considered a good thing, because like why not, right? Since if you can't get like budgets anywhere. So but I think there's always this debate, should it should we like consume it on like through TV on a Netflix platform, or like should such films be presented properly, where it's meant to be in the cinemas? I think there's like always like a debate going on. I feel that because of the pandemic, for now, it's not a bad thing to consume shows on streaming platforms. But I think once things are better, when festivals are also kind of slowly like opening, I mean like this year a few festivals are already like holding physical events. I think that can form like kind of like a nice balance. I think that streaming and cinema, they, no matter what, we have to find like a middle ground to just kind of like balance each other out. So I won't say whether like good or bad. I think it's just how we are going to navigate these two platforms.
Thank you so much. Mary, what about you? Do you ever like consider going to streaming services, maybe like from like a producer's perspective?
Yeah, because like like what Puiyee said, like we have to find a balance in between to go to the cinemas or like to do on streaming platforms. And we did think about that, but at the same time, the pandemic, you have to find ways to innovate and see how everything goes. Like for example, like even though like you want to screen your film to the audience, wait, let me just rephrase that. Yeah, I kind of lost my train of thought. So yeah, definitely we do think about Netflix distribution, even movie also, where they specialize a lot of local, like when you see movie or when you see Netflix, you see like a lot of local contents going up more, like they're focusing it more. So it's definitely still here to stay lah. Like for example, if you look at the recent Cannes like Memoria, Api Chapong's Memoria, right? Even though it's also like film screened in film festivals, but they also plan to screen in like the streaming platform at Mubi. So it's not only like to one junction. It's like you have to find ways to like have a middle ground and like innovate, and yeah, that's where you get your most audience.
All right, thank you, Mary. Lastly, to Hock, what do you think about streaming service like in general?
Well, the first thing to understand about these streaming services are they're all
Mhm.
businesses, right?
Mm-hmm.
Businesses are governed by economics, right? So if you look at it, if the economics are there to stay and sustain it, then it's going to be there, right? So if you are a filmmaker, for instance, right, if you really don't want to, or if you really want to screen your film on the big screen, then don't sell lah to these streaming services. It's very simple. It's economics, right? Then you suffer lah. You cannot pay for your son's education lah. Just joking. So what I mean is that all this is an economics cycle, right? So if the people, right, I mean, the general public, right, finds the OTT services to be valuable, which for me I find it very valuable because that's where I get to see the documentaries and the films I can't see. That's where I can watch those old Charlie Chaplin films, right, stuff like that. So me as a consumer, right, I really love those services because I get exposure to a lot of content that I otherwise would not, right? 20 years ago, we probably go to some shady place to get pirated DVDs, right? But now with all these OTT coming in, right, you get a wealth of library and new content that you can explore, right? It's really good for everyone that love movies or films or content, right? That expands the horizon and also improves the quality because all this, when they watch more of this, then they got certain expectation on qualities, right? So you see on the other way around, right? On the other side of the swing, you will see that filmmakers gets this bunch of these people that are highly exposed to high quality content, right? So it balances out there, and then it forces them to create high quality content as well. All right, so it's two sides of the thing. So OTT, is really great because of these reasons, right? And people pay money to subscribe to these OTTs because they find value in it, right? So it's a whole cycle of economics, right? So if the economics is no longer there, then all the OTTs will just go away lah. But I don't foresee that to happen. So is it going to be good for cinema or not? Absolutely, it's going to be good for cinema, right? The first thing is, with so many OTTs, right, in the local film industry, happen in Indonesia, right? Also, you can't find crew, no? Because there's so much demand for production, right? There's so much demand for from this OTT player for production crew, for production creatives, for production personnel, right? There's basically all these guys gets paid, right? So I think it is a really great thing for the whole industry, really. Yeah, I mean, if you really don't like your film to be watched on the small screen, then don't sell. But that's not going to be the way going forward. It's going to be, we call it a PVOD situation, a premium VOD, where it's probably going to have a simultaneous cinema and VOD release, right? Like Mulan, for instance, right? It makes sense. If you don't want to go to the cinema to watch, you watch at home lah. Why restrict people's freedom, right?
Right.
You like lah, people like lah, right? Because it's their choice, it's their money, right? So it's the invisible hand, you see? Leave it to the invisible hand, right?
Yeah.
Because whoever who wants to watch OTT services, then they'll pay for it. And then if you really want your film to be shown on a big screen first, then it's your choice, right? No one can force you to sell your film to the OTT players, right? Yeah. So I think that's going to be the way forward.
So yeah, because again, times are changing. Like I think streaming servers are gonna be staying lah. So yeah.
Yeah, not all of them though. Some of them will die.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Now we're almost at the end of the show. All right. Now before we end, does anyone here have? Oh, we did it just now, but we're gonna do it again. So anyone has any current or future projects to promote? Maybe we start with Mary again.
So yeah, do have a look out on our Foreground Pictures social media, and we do have plans with the second installation of Monsoon 21, which is we would do a Monsoon 22, but different style. And yeah, we'll plan to shoot it next year and see how the pandemic goes, and definitely keep on shooting more short films and see how it goes.
So everyone who's a big fan of Monsoon 21, keep a lookout on that. Maybe we'll go next to Puiyee. Do you have anything to promote?
Yeah, so for those of you who like Southeast Asian short films, do check out the Objectives Film Library with a catalogue of more than 200 short films from Southeast Asia. A lot of them have been to, well-known festivals, but also they're all like very exciting filmmakers from Southeast Asia. The rental fee for the film, it's about USD $1.50 for 3 days. And also, if you all, we just concluded our Objective Short Film Incubator, Short Film Script Lab. So for those of you who are interested, to workshop your short film script, do keep a lookout for our open call next year.
Yeah, I think during the research period, I did like look at Objective and look at the list of films. Like, oh man, this is like a treat right here. Yeah. So yeah, anyone interested may look out that. Hope, do you have any things to promote?
Well, I've just joined Unifi TV for almost coming to 4 months now only. But we are doing a massive revamp on the offering, on the content offering and everything, right? So look out for some announcements early next month, so early September. It's going to be really, really amazing. Yeah.
So guys, do keep a lookout on Unifi TV. And lastly, Anwari, do you have anything to promote?
I can't specifically mention what we are currently working on, but something is we are currently in the writer's room of a project, and I think I'm proud to report for a lot of you MMU students is that no matter how hard I try when it comes to looking at graduating writers, I look at all the universities, and somehow I always end up with a team of all MMU graduates. So I think something is being done right there. However, if there is any non-MMU students watching this, come on lah guys, takkan lah kan. Jangan nak kasih can dia orang ni kan. I mean, even my team, my entire team is consisted of, when it comes to the when the younger team members is being consisted of mostly MMU students. And yeah, I mean, for everyone's sake, come on, let's change that lah kan. But yeah, something is being done right lah, MMU.
Yeah, to spice things up, we want more people, want more talents, that kind of stuff. Okay. Well, thank you so much. Well, that's the show. Although we a little bit like, kind of overtime a little bit, but yeah, that's the show. Thank you all so much for watching this. I couldn't be more grateful. I know that, I missed out a lot of questions because there is a lot of questions. So I sincerely apologize if I missed some of your questions. Hopefully, the four of our guests here, if they have the time, they can answer it at the comment section. So, don't stop flooding the comments, all right? Now, before we leave, hopefully my team will now sharing with you the QR code and the link because, again, this is our pilot episode, right? This is like our testing. So, we wanted to know how you feel. So your opinion kind of really matters to us. So, what you're going to see is basically a form. It's basically what your thoughts about, this whole show, what you like, what do you think should be improved, what other topics that you want to hear. So, make sure to fill it up. And also, if you're SPM, if you're studying SPM right now, make sure that you have to check on your section because there's a section specifically for you guys. So keep an eye on that. Now, I want to thank so much for the four of our lovely, talented guests tonight, as well as our Cinematic Arts Society for organizing this whole event. We also like to thank our advisor, Mr. Ghazi and Mr. Furkan. I love you. Before anything, I would like the four of you guests to stay back, and because we're going to take a group photo. As for you, dear audience, thank you so much. Take care. Stay safe. We will see you guys next time. All right. Good night and goodbye.